The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, has said investors have become more comfortable with the Apex Bank's strategic management of the foreign exchange market. Speaking during an interview with the Financial Times, Cardoso stated that whereas in the past businessmen had a tendency to head for the window in response to currency fluctuations, they now understand that there's a fundamental shift in the FX market. Cardoso's statements came just as Fitch Ratings expressed reservations over the regulatory direction of the CBN, suggesting that recent measures may impede the banking sector's ability to bolster the country's revised economic trajectory. Specifically, the global agency highlighted concerns over a $2.2 billion foreign exchange backlog, which Cardoso had stated could not be verified and therefore would not be honored. Equally yesterday, the Naira declined on both the official FX window and the parallel FX markets as this day gathered that the EFCC has continued to arrest bureau de change operators in Lagos. Economic matters this morning, Rufai, and very important as well. Your take on this interview with Olayemi Cardoso?
What Mr. Cardoso is doing is called posturing. He's speaking to the FT, which is about the biggest reach you can get for the private sector and investor world in the West, the Financial Times. So he will definitely say all of that for posturing. The fact that, yes, investors are really excited about the market, yes, on that slant, he got some of that right because they brought in most of their cash. But what were we doing? We're doing a lot of open market operation, increased bond yields so they could bring in their money. But like we always say, is that money sustainable? No, because it also gives you a downline. What's a downline? You now have to pay for the interest on those bond yields, which is going to about $1 trillion as we speak today. That's not the kind of money we want. We want foreign direct investment. And in that score, I'd like to exonerate Cardoso because he can't do it alone. The fiscal side also needs to come in. As regards what is happening with the Forex today, we have seen a slump, but there's also a lot of policy misalignment with CBN. In one breath, you're saying the bureau de change are the ones causing the problem. You are sending people to go arrest them and all that. In another breath, you are giving them money. But you were the one at first that says, okay, let's give them money. And you started seeing, okay, the speculation activity drop, but now you don't have money to give them any longer because the bureau de change are even complaining that when they apply for Forex, the $10,000 they say they will give them daily, it takes about a month to get it. So there's a lot of misalignments. At first, you called Binance out to be the cause of the problem. You've taken Binance out of the way now with USD trading. You know, there are allegations of Binance against in the court and things like that. But you can see that the real problem is liquidity. And the problem of liquidity is that you're not attracting FDI, which I will not put the blame on Mr. Cardoso alone. You can't do it alone. Because to attract FDI, the economy needs to be good, infrastructure needs to be good, ease of doing business needs to be good. The president has gone on this worldwide tour of trying to get investment in and all of that, but we've not seen the investment trickle down. So those are also the problems we are facing at the same time. So at this crossroads, what do we do? Do we allow our currency to keep sliding down? As of today now, some people are reporting 1,004, some people are reporting 1,005 something. There's been an upward surge again in the Naira. At some point, maybe a couple of months down the line, if it ticks up to over 1,005 or one, that they will have to come in and defend again and bolster. And we go through this cycle again. But the real solution to the problem is productivity. You see, those that argue, and the proponents of the IMF economists that argue that, oh, devalue the currency is over-bloated and all of that, they don't tell you that there are no fundamentals on the production base. What makes up the currency? The productive activity of the nation. And that's why I say, IMF shefe pawani. Because you keep saying, devalue, do this, remove subsidy and everything. For an economy that has no fundamental base in production, look at manufacturers only yesterday crying that 290 billion were spent on diesel and other costs. So we need to get the economy back to produce. And how do you get it back to produce? Incentivize the businesses to be able to produce, fix electricity, and providing solutions, step-by-step solutions now. Because see, this dependence on the West for FDI, there's so little they can do. You will have to fix our problem. We will have to fix our problems the hard way. And we have to go and start the engine of this economy, ensure it produce and export product so we can earn the much needed forex. That's where we are going. All hands must be on deck. Cardoso cannot do it alone.
Well, the basis of this story is an interview granted by Olayemi Cardoso to Financial Times. And I just want to make the basic point that central bankers do not conduct themselves like celebrities. They focus on monetary policy, and they speak strictly on monetary policies. In recent times, we have had central bank governors of Nigeria who end up as celebrities. I would not be surprised if one day we have a central bank governor who shows up playing a role in Nollywood. Central bank governors, when they speak, traditionally, professionally, their words carry weight. I think the first thing that Yemi Cardoso should resist is the temptation to become a celebrity. We should hear from our central bank governor when it is very important. Not every day central bank governor is making a speech here, is making a speech there, you know. Wow. I think the trend started years before now, but bankers are supposed to be conservative. They are not supposed to hog the limelight so that their words can carry weight. That's my first point. The second point is to go to the substance of what the central bank governor told Financial Times. He stated very clearly an ideological position that the central bank under his watch is committed to orthodoxy. What does orthodoxy mean in economic terms? It means simply that if inflation keeps going up, the government, the central bank, will keep increasing rates. And he made that very clear. And what we expect is that tomorrow, the National Bureau of Statistics is going to announce inflation figures for April. Inflation figures now at over 32%. If it goes up to 34%, as some economics are predicting, it means that at the next MPC meeting, Yemi Cardoso is going to, and it's MPC, they will raise the rates again. Now, why this domestic approach, academic, in every sense? Anybody who has ever spent a little time in a business school, we know this. It's a no-brainer. Why this textbook approach, will seem to make sense theoretically. The truth is that the Nigerian people are not excited about these policies. Fitch rating that adjusted its review, its outlook for Nigeria, has even had to adjust its outlook further, raising questions about the regulatory direction of the CBN. However, you have the IMF that only recently praised the Central Bank of Nigeria for its economic reforms and its direction. However, I've cited the example of Fitch rating to say that opinion is divided on the performance so far of the CBN and on the policy direction of the CBN. Now, lending rate is over 24%. If lending rate rises above 5%, where in the UK is between 5.25% and 5.5%, is the same rate in the United States. Can you imagine? Nigeria has a lending rate of 24.75%. But in reality, what you get from the banks is even higher than that. We are not Argentina that has the highest rate of inflation in the world. Argentina has an inflation rate that is over 300%. So the business, the task before Nigeria is to prevent a situation whereby we go the way of Argentina or we go the way of Venezuela. Nigerian people are groaning. Only yesterday, organized labor TUC, NLC, National Union of Electricity Employers, they were out there protesting, picketing the Ministry of Power, the Federal Ministry of Power, discos across the country, picketing the National Electricity Regulatory Commission, and saying that Nigerians are suffering. So this is a context in which we should look at this issue. Cardoso saying that investors are very comfortable with the Nigerian environment. What are they comfortable about? What is he actually talking about? Is he talking about portfolio investment? Or is he talking about FDI, foreign direct investment? We're getting a lot of portfolio investment because people can come here, take advantage of our vulnerabilities, make a lot of money, and leave, and minimize their risks. Nigerians are saying that Nigeria should be a proper destination for direct investment, for productivity. One of the things that the IMF in the Article 4 consultation said about Nigeria is that the CBN under Cardoso has been able to stabilize the Naira. Have you read the papers? The future was predicted when analysts, experts who know this subject, said that, look, it was a temporary reprieve and that the Naira will further tank. Today, the Naira is exchanging for about 1,458 or 1,500 to the dollar. So whatever intervention the CBN said they did with regard to the Bureau de Change, the BDCs, as they are otherwise called, we are back almost to square one. So we need more certainty. We don't need all these interviews, talk. Can Yemi Cardoso, as CBN governor, just focus more on the job rather than the glamour of the office? That is what I think is more important. But maybe they will say, okay, journalists are part of the problem. We are the ones going to these people, asking them for interviews, asking them to say something. But look, the business of fixing Nigeria is a more important job. And then on the fiscal side, they are sleeping. Senator Bagudu, who is on the fiscal side, and the Minister of Finance, who are on the fiscal side, we need to see better coordination, and we need to see better communication. The CBN governor should not find himself in a difficult situation whereby he has to carry everybody's load, as Godwin Emefiele had to do, and nobody is even thanking him, for carrying everybody's load during his time, maybe because of his own omissions. But we need proper delineation. They had what they call it, Federal Executive Council meeting yesterday. That meeting has been extended to today. So we have 2 days of Federal Executive Council meeting after a long spell. We are expecting that Federal Executive Council meeting, when it sits at 10 a.m., the council sits from 10 a.m. for people who are punctual. Those who are not punctual will be locked out of the room. That's the tradition. That they will focus on serious issues bothering Nigerians. The foreign exchange regime, the value of the Naira, electricity hike, the hardship, the prevailing pandemic of empty pockets, that I think that if 2 of you will not attest to it, I can attest to the prevailing pandemic of empty pockets, which has become a challenge for all of us.
Well, just before we move on to our next story, very quickly on this. A number of things have been said, but one of the things I want to highlight is that when we reported, or perhaps the CBN, the government, reported the gains in the Naira, the conversation that dominated this table was, how sustainable is this? yes, the interventions by the CBN seem to have been working, and we saw the naira gain to the dollar up to about 1,100 naira at some point, having having experienced a fall, a free fall up until 1,800, 1,900 in some quarters. And the main conversation was, yes, we're attracting these FPIs, foreign portfolio investments, but how sustainable are they? Because at the end of the day, we keep mentioning the word, the fundamentals. If this isn't addressed, then we will not see a sustainable gain. And this is what we have now seen happen. We have seen it play out today with now moving up to 1,400, up in some quarters 1,500. It means that the interventions were only temporary in measure, but unfortunately, no long-term gain. We have talked about the importance of FDIs, that's what this administration, this government should be positioning itself to attract. And in order for that to happen, a number of things have to occur. Unfortunately, those things don't seem to, number one, either have occurred, or number two, seem to be occurring in the very near future. We've talked about, to be honest, I want to give kudos to the CBN governor, because in terms of the fiscal and monetary aspects of things, at least he seems to be working. Yes, he's coming out to update, because we're in a situation where a number of people are a bit jittery. If you speak to the market, a number of them are saying they are actually having conversations and a lot of confusion, because they are not sure as to how sustainable the gains will be. So in that regard, he is trying to manage a very dire situation. And kudos to him that thus far, even though not Uhuru yet, he's done his own fair share bit. What we've consistently called for is that where is the corresponding fiscal part of this? And when you speak about that, then we must bring in Mr. Wale Edun into the conversation, the Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy. How much coordination is happening in terms of revenue, in sharing revenue? In order for that to happen, we must also fix certain things. And it almost seems as if it's a broken record, because we keep talking about these things again and again. But we must continue to speak about them, because if we're going to enjoy sustainable gains economically, then these things must be fixed. It's not just about the monetary aspect of things. We talk about power generation. In fact, nowadays, if you want to talk about that, it would be like, oh, leave that. That's a forgotten thing. Let's talk about real things. But if a nation like Nigeria must move forward and attract the much-needed investors, then we must ensure that we have some of these things in place. Something else that we must also talk about is government oversight and policy direction. This administration hasn't done quite excellently in that regard. And these are the things that foreign investors are looking at. At some point, number one, when their funds, when it's time to repatriate their funds, what's the guarantee that this will be done? And that's why Fitch had raised concerns around the $2.2 billion that hasn't been repatriated, despite the fact that the CBN governor says that it's because they were not authenticated or they're not able to verify those transactions. But this is a signal to foreign investors. We look at policy directions where the Binance founders were arrested. And then we had concerns, interviews here and there about they being asked for bribes, even though the government denied it. But these are some of the things that investors are also looking at. We look at security concerns. We look at the rate of divestment of some big organizations that have been here for some years. Investors are looking at this. What is the climate of running businesses in Nigeria? These are the things that investors are looking at. So we can have temporary gain through drastic monetary policy directions, but the fiscal is also important in order to ensure that we're able to truly address these concerns. But like Rufai, you talked about, I also thought it was posturing. I didn't expect the CBN governor to speak to the FT and say that investors are not comfortable. Of course, he has to speak positively about that. Well, we'll move on to the next story this morning. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara says his administration will set up a judicial panel to investigate how governance was conducted in the state under former Governor Nyesom Wike before he assumed office. Governor Fubara, while swearing in Dagogo Iboroma as the new Attorney General of the state, says he chose to bring him in at a critical moment of governance, as the state has a lot of legal matters that need to be tackled with bravery and courage, pleading that the new Attorney General should not fail the state. He vowed to make tough decisions moving forward, no matter how hurtful they would seem to some people.
When I said that I had a reason for being patient, it was because I know that we are all from one family. And if we have a disagreement, no matter how bad it is, it should be resolved. But it has become very clear that this disagreement there is no headway to it. And for a lot of reasons, there are very, very visible evidence that there is sabotage, deliberate attempt to sabotage this administration. You have a big tax. As it is today, in the local parliament, they said the jungle has matured. We will be setting a panel of inquiry to investigate the affair of governance.
Beyond economics, someone else who's dominating the headlines these days is the governor of River State.
No,
Governor
I'm happy.
Simfubara.
You know why I'm
Take on the
happy?
story.
It has shown that politicians do not learn that they can't be gods forever. And they always make this mistake thinking that you put a man, you use your influence for a man in power, he'll do your bidding. He'll never do your bidding. A human being has a mind of his own. Like Dr. Pat talked about, another part of the body that has a mind of its own.
What part of the body is that?
I'm not, do we want to, progress
I'm
on
not
that?
going to engage you on
Please
that.
stay on Rivers.
I'm going to
Stay on Rivers
I'm
politics.
not. But the truth has to be said. He's a human being, has a mind of his own. And this squabble has started for a while. At first, Fubara thought peace will reign. But one thing I've come to see is, in a place where you have somebody that feels, you owe me this, it's always difficult for a sense of reason to prevail. So he is now fighting back. And like I said yesterday, with due respect, President Tinubu botched all of this in the first place by allowing Fubara to do something that the tantamount to his death warrant by taking sides. Now President Tinubu is realizing, that's why I say he doesn't want to put his mouth. He shouldn't have put his mouth in the first place, not carrying him to go and sign, because these people will slug it out. You hear Fubara's, Wike was saying the other day that, oh, it's a mistake. That's an assault to the Rivers people. I mean, you might have put in that, but some people voted in one way or the other. The elections, yes, it's still shrouded in a lot of controversy. We can't deny that fact. But it has to be said, you are not this man's God. And that's why Fubara has responded to him by saying, may you make more mistakes like this. And Fubara is telling, I'm going to fight back, jungle don't mature. Some people will say that maybe it's the head of Tonyenko and the God of Tonyenko that is catching both of them.
Cross my mind.
I keep saying that. But one thing I like that Fubara says, he's going to set up a panel to probe Wike. To probe who? Wike. Government you were part of, Mr. Fubara. Let me tell you what to probe, Mr. Fubara. I'll tell you what to probe. EFCC declares Rivers Accountant General and others wanted for 435 billion fraud, 24th May 2022. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has declared Rivers Accountant General Fubara Similaye and 58 others wanted for 435 billion fraud. Maybe let's start by probing that. You see, politics is so murky. It goes with the Yoruba saying, Baba soko soja, arali eni nimba. It means when you throw a stone into the marketplace, it might definitely hit one of your own. So I hope in this legal probe, Mr. Fubara, that's going to probe Mr. Wike, the same government he's serving as Accountant General that EFCC was looking for him, will tell us more about what happened to this 435 billion. It's not me he should tell. He should tell the Rivers people that it's their money. Because that case is pending. And other shenanigans that happened in that government which he served in, he should probe. So that's why when I hear the word probe, I say, okay, go ahead, let's go there. If you have the nerve. You see, I like when two elephants fight because two things happen. The sad part of when two elephants fight is that the grass suffers, yes, which I don't like. But also, the ruffle spits in the two elephants' face. That's the part I like the most. Because as the ground is suffering, the ruffle is in the face of the elephant. They will injure themselves.
What is ruffle?
Maybe what can I say? The dirt.
The mixed dirt.
The mud.
The mud.
Let me use it in Warri Palace. The poto. Spills on their faces. So the mud and the dirt, the egregious things they have done starts to pan out. So let the fight begin. At least let the Rivers people see what really transpired in this wicked administration as it's tantamount to Fubara and all of that. Because there are no saints in all of this political debacle and the games they play. I just want the best of the Rivers people. Yeah. Let the fight begin.
Okay, what happened yesterday in Rivers State would seem to amount to a declaration of war. You had the governor, who some people say, has found its mojo back, in popular parlance, declaring war. He said the jungle has matured. That was the phrase that he used. which in itself is a declaration of war. And that there has been, an attempt to sabotage his administration, and that he is determined to fight back. Hence, he is setting up a panel of inquiry to inquire into what the past administration did in Rivers State. The past administration that is referring to is none other than the administration of Nyesom Wike as governor of Rivers State, which he served as accountant general, first chief accountant and later accountant general of the state. Now, it will be recalled that in 2022, May 2022 to be specific, he was summoned by the EFCC looking for a certain missing 435 billion naira, but the matter, didn't really come up. In 2023, he was rewarded by Governor Nyesom Wike, who said, "Oh, you'll be the next governor," and he emerged as governor in May 2023. Sime Fubara is sending signal that he knows where the corpses are buried and that he is in a position to exhume those corpses. This is, in my view, a very strong signal to Nyesom Wike that is not as invincible as he thinks. Coincidentally, Nyesom Wike, who is now federal capital territory minister, said he was apologizing to the people of Rivers State for him to have chosen Fubara as his successor. Well, that may be just political talk or emotional talk. Now, Sime Fubara is saying he has woken up as a man and is going to investigate Nyesom Wike, his predecessor, and that all the corpses hidden in the graveyard will be exhumed. I think that the people who will benefit from this will be the people of Rivers State, who will have clarity, better clarity, in terms of how Nyesom Wike served them and how they have been served over the years. Now, Governor Fubara also yesterday made the point that his mission is to protect the interests of the people of Rivers State. And that before now he has been very quiet, very patient, thinking that there will be peace. But now it is clear to him, he made it clear, that it looks like this matter will not be resolved. And that is why he said the jungle has matured. So it's time now for open warfare. Against who? Against Nyesom Wike. But this was at the occasion of the swearing in of the announcement of the emergence of Ibn Abo Dagogo SAN as the latest Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General of the state. Remembering that Anago SAN, who was Wike's appointee as Attorney General, resigned. And so we have a new replacement. Governor Fubara now told Ibn Abo Dagogo SAN that he does not want to hear anything about non prosecui, which is the power of the Attorney General to withdraw a matter in court, which means that Governor Fubara is on a war path. He wants Dagogo SAN to fight his battle for him and to take anybody that may have done anything untoward towards the people of Rivers State to court and to fight it to the finish. So, but I find that a bit funny, because the Attorney General is the chief law officer of the state. The governor, who is unlearned, is not in a position to dictate to the Attorney General, this is what I want you to do. I think that Governor Fubara will be well advised that his new Attorney General, as an officer in the Temple of Justice, has only one obligation: to respect the rule of law, to defend the rule of law, and to ensure that the law is properly explained, not for political reasons, but the law as it is. Okay, that's Justinian positivism, but he has to stand on the side of the law. So Dagogo SAN should not go into that office and think that he's there to serve a political purpose, the political purpose that was defined by Governor Fubara yesterday. However, in the midst of all of this, it looks like there is, as we have said, commotion, crisis, conflict, war in Rivers State. Dagogo SAN, his appointment was screened, ratified, and passed by the factional speaker of the Rivers State of Assembly. His name is Victor Jumbo. Now, that's a panel of 3 persons. So the argument still remains about what the court will decide with regard to who are the legitimate members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. As we speak, there's great confusion in Rivers State as to the legislature, as to the politics of the executive, and I think we'll return to the original point we keep making on this program. Now, it is the people of Rivers State who have been short-served. I rest my case.
Rivers of drama, rivers of surprises, but hopefully to become a rivers of prosperity for the people of Rivers State. So many things going on in Rivers State. And like we said last week, it's quite unfortunate that what's come out or dominated headlines since the inauguration of the governor of Rivers State is controversy upon controversy, a declaration of battle, a man of peace, and then now being a man of lion, a man of war. Recall that when they had the meeting in Abuja with the president and former Governor Nyesom Wike, he had said he would take any path that would toe the line of peace, and he was willing to make sacrifices for this to happen. It seems like Governor Fubara has made a U-turn and is now on a path of war to save the soul of Rivers State if he includes that. Now, let's talk about this probe. Now, on one side, of course, it is important to be able to probe a previous administration, especially where there are suspicions of things not being done properly. However, it's also important to not then make this a political tool to go against a political adversary, as we've seen on a number of occasions. I mean, whether or not the motive is to go over, to go against a political advisory, the substantive part of that is that at least the people get to win by being able to expose the dealings of a previous administration. So that's a win on that side. We see what's also happening in Kaduna State. Once there's a probe instituted against a previous leader, the first thing that happens is, oh, it's a witch hunt. You're trying to attack me in that way. In Rivers State, it is almost clear to see that happening because of what has transpired between former Governor Nyesom Wike and now Governor Sim Fubara. Before when you're talking, and I think Dr. Bakti also talked about the over 400 billion investigation that would have happened in the previous administration. This is where we now talk about immunity. Because even if the governor decides to probe himself, he's protected and immune by the law, such that because he's a governor, so he would have to wait until the end of his tenure to answer questions. And then it goes back to that conversation around to what extent should immunity be given to sitting governors or sitting presidents, because some of them, it becomes an escape route when they have a case or a matter pending that they haven't answered to, and then they get into office and nothing then happens, at least during their time in office. Would like to see how this will end. Will we get justice for the Rivers people? Because as has been established, it's the money of the Rivers people that is in question. I think what must also be giving boldness to Governor Fubara is the support of the people, including the elders, who have made they haven't hidden the fact that they were backing him, they were supporting him, and what they've said is that they are doing this in the interest of the democracy of Rivers State. And so in order to uphold the sovereignty of the state, to ensure the state is standing on its own, they would support the governor to ensure that no one comes to be a godfather around this point. But it just goes back again to the process in itself of electing our leaders, the process in itself of choosing who becomes governor, who becomes leader, who becomes president. Because the Rivers people went out to vote, yes, even though Governor Wike says is the one that made the mistake to install Governor Fubara there. But they went out to vote. We know that the elections were marred with irregularities. And so beyond just the court cases is the ripple effect of a bad process of elections initiated, or in this case, we bring in INEC into the conversation as well. 1 year on, and I don't know what tangible thing has been done in the state aside from trying to battle a predecessor who does not want to put his hands off the reins. It's sad for a rich people or a rich community like that of Rivers State, a rich state like that of Rivers. And I'm hoping that the Rivers people will demand for what is theirs and not just continue to watch the drama that's unfolding between the current governor and the previous governor. We hope to see what these updates would be like, and let's look forward to that probe and hopefully unveiling what really happened during Governor Nyesom Wike's tenure, especially with managing the money of the Rivers people. Well, other news making the rounds this morning. Organized labor, led by Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, and Trade Union Congress, TUC, yesterday made real its threat of picketing operators of the country's power sector and grounding operations following the recent increase in electricity tariff by the federal government. The PwC has advised state governments to carry out proper planning and thorough feasibility studies before embarking on implementation of the 2023 Electricity Act in order to avert efforts that would end up in futility. On the foreign scene, Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, told jurors on Monday that the Republican presidential candidate personally signed off on a hush money payment to a porn star to bury her story about an alleged sexual encounter before it could derail his 2016 campaign. Also, Melinda French Gates announced yesterday she would resign as co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that she has helped lead since 2000. This is part of a separation agreement from former husband Bill Gates, and she will receive an additional $12.5 billion for her charitable work.